I tend to faint. I mean, those remarks were just full of hostility. Because, I mean, you know, if I'd listened to those people, I would have gone out there on stage, I wouldn't have been able to hear anything, and I would have fainted. But the hostility was completely inappropriate, because in fact, those people liked me. I mean, that hostility was just some feeling that was, you know, left over from some previous experience. Because somehow in our social existence today, we're only allowed to express our feelings weirdly and indirectly. If you express them directly, everybody goes crazy.
It on for anything. First, I'd be worried I might get electrocuted. No, I don't trust technology. But I mean, the main thing, Wally, is that I think that kind of comfort just separates you from reality in a very direct way.
You mean?
I mean, if you don't have that electric blanket and your apartment is cold and you need to put on another blanket or go into the closet and pile up coats on top of the blanket you have, well, then you know it's cold. And that sets up a link of things. You have compassion for well, is the person next to you cold? Are there other people in the world who are cold? What a cold night. I like the cold. My God, I never realized. I don't want a blanket. It's fun being cold. I can snuggle up against you even more because it's cold. All sorts of things occur to you. Turn on that electric blanket and it's like taking a tranquilizer. It's like being lobotomized by watching television. I think you enter the dream world again. I mean, what does it do to us, Wally, living in an environment where something as massive as the seasons or winter or cold don't in any way affect us? I mean, we're animals after all. I mean, what does that mean? I think that means that instead of living under the sun and the moon and the sky and the stars, we're living in a fantasy world of our own making.
I mean, really, tell me, why do we require a trip to Mount Everest in order to be able to perceive one moment of reality? I mean, is Mount Everest more real than New York? I mean, isn't New York real? I mean, you see, I think if you could become fully aware of what existed in the cigar store next door to this restaurant, I think it would just blow your brains out. I mean, isn't there just as much reality to be perceived in the cigar store as there is on Mount Everest? I mean, what do you think? You see, I think that not only is there nothing more real about Mount Everest, I think there's nothing that different in a certain way. I mean, because reality is uniform in a way, so that if your perceptions are, if your own mechanism is operating correctly, it would become irrelevant to go to Mount Everest and sort of absurd, because of course, on some level, obviously it's very different from a cigar store on 7th Avenue. But
Well, I agree with you, Wally. But the problem is that people can't see the cigar store now. I mean, things don't affect people the way they used to. I mean, it may very well be that 10 years from now, people will pay $10,000 in cash to be castrated just in order to be affected by something.
Well, why do you think that is? I mean, why is that? I mean, is it just because people are lazy today, or they're bored? I mean, are we just like bored, spoiled children who've just been lying in the bathtub all day, just playing with their plastic duck, and now they're just thinking, well, what can I do?
Okay, yes. We're bored. We're all bored now. But has it ever occurred to you, Wally, that the process that creates this boredom that we see in the world now may very well be a self-perpetuating, unconscious form of brainwashing created by a world totalitarian government based on money, and that all of this is much more dangerous than one thinks, and it's not just a question of individual survival, Wally, but that somebody who's bored is asleep, and somebody who's asleep will not say no? See, I keep meeting these people. I mean, just a few days ago, I met this man whom I greatly admire. He's a Swedish physicist, Gustav Bjornstrand, and he told me that he no longer watches television, he doesn't read newspapers, and he doesn't read magazines. He's completely cut them out of his life because he really does feel that we're living in some kind of Orwellian nightmare now, and that everything that you hear now contributes to turning you into a robot. And when I was at Findhorn, I met this extraordinary English tree expert who had devoted his life to saving trees. He just got back from Washington, lobbying to save the redwoods. He's 84 years old. He always travels with a backpack because he never knows where he's going to be tomorrow. And when I met him at Findhorn, he said to me, "Where are you from?" And I said, "New York." He said, "New York, yes, that's a very interesting place. Do you know a lot of New Yorkers who keep talking about the fact that they want to leave but never do?" And I said, "Oh, yes." And he said, "Why do you think they don't leave?" I gave him different banal theories. He said, "Oh, I don't think it's that way at all." He said, "I think that New York is the new model for the new concentration camp, where the camp has been built by the inmates themselves, and the inmates are the guards, and they have this pride in this thing they've built. They've built their own prison, and so they exist in a state of schizophrenia, where they are both guards and prisoners, and as a result, they no longer have, having been lobotomized, the capacity to leave the prison they've made, or to even see it as a prison." And then he went into his pocket and he took out a seed for a tree, and he said, "This is a pine tree." He put it in my hand and he said, "Escape before it's too late."
I mean, really, tell me, why do we require a trip to Mount Everest in order to be able to perceive one moment of reality? Is Mount Everest more real than New York? Isn't New York real? You see, I think if you could become fully aware of what existed in the cigar store next door to this restaurant, I think it would just blow your brains out. Isn't there just as much reality to be perceived in the cigar store as there is on Mount Everest? What do you think? You see, I think that not only is there nothing more real about Mount Everest, I think there's nothing that different in a certain way. Because reality is uniform in a way, so that if your perceptions are, if your own mechanism is operating correctly, it would become irrelevant to go to Mount Everest and sort of absurd because, of course, on some level, obviously it's very different from a cigar store on 7th Avenue.
Well, I agree with you, Wally. But the problem is that people can't see the cigar store now. Things don't affect people the way they used to. It may very well be that 10 years from now, people will pay $10,000 in cash to be castrated just in order to be affected by something.
Well, why do you think that is? Why is that? Is it just because people are lazy today or they're bored? Are we just like bored, spoiled children who've just been lying in the bathtub all day, just playing with their plastic duck, and now they're just thinking, well, what can I do?
Okay, yes. We are bored. We're all bored now. But has it ever occurred to you, Wally, that the process that creates this boredom that we see in the world now may very well be a self-perpetuating, unconscious form of brainwashing created by a world totalitarian government based on money, and that all of this is much more dangerous than one thinks? And it's not just a question of individual survival, Wally, but that somebody who's bored is asleep, and somebody who's asleep will not say no?
Now, this vision of a universe arranged in harmonies of sounds and relations is no new discovery. Today, physicists are simply proving that what we call an object, an atom, a molecule, a particle, is only an approximation, a metaphor. At the subatomic level, it dissolves into a series of interconnections, like chords of music. It's beautiful.
Yeah, but there are boundaries, aren't there? Between you and me, for instance. We are two separate bodies, aren't we? That's not an illusion.
At the subatomic level, there is a continual exchange of matter and energy between my hand and this wood, between the wood and the air, and even between you and me. A real exchange of photons and electrons. Ultimately, whether we like it or not, we're all part of one inseparable web of relationships.
Well, the brain receives billions of signals every minute, and out of them we select a small portion and make a picture which we project outside and consider reality. That's our reality tunnel. That's our reality tunnel. A mosquito comes in the window. A mosquito will perceive an entirely different reality tunnel than a dog. A dog will perceive a different reality tunnel than a human being. Everybody does it differently. That's why no two people ever perceive the same interlude of time. If you set a watch and then stop it and ask them how long it was, they'll guess anything from 15 seconds to 4 minutes. If you ask them what color something is, some will say green and some will say blue. And this is why the first problem in learning Zen Buddhism is generally to identify the great master who makes the grass green.
Who is the master who makes the grass green?
Who is the master who Well, I happen to be the CEO of the Committee for Surrealist Investigation of Claims of the Normal, and we actually are offering $10,000 to anybody who can produce anything that's totally normal in all respects, or even average. And then the normalists all claim that they got something that they can demonstrate. They call the normal. They never can produce it. It's a mathematical abstraction. You try to find a normal dog, a normal human being, a normal Irishman, a normal Portuguese, a normal American. You can't find them. There is no such thing. But everything turns out to be uniquely itself and uniquely perverted from the norm.
Who is the master who makes the grass green?
Well, it has to do with language, as Nietzsche pointed out. It gets tiresome to say this leaf, that leaf, the next leaf, leaf number 4, leaf number 5, so we say leaves. And then sooner or later some asshole like Plato comes along and says that leaves really exist. And they don't realize we created them. So the reality isn't haunted by the abnormal or the paranormal. The normal has been invented by a process of self-hypnosis, of creative imagination.
Who is the master who makes the grass green?
The master who makes the grass green. That's our reality tunnel. Oh yeah, every reality tunnel is reinforced by a particular vocabulary. In Northern Ireland, there's a city that's called Derry by the Catholics and Londonderry by the Protestants. You say Derry in one part of town and the Protestants will shoot you. You say Londonderry in the other part of town, the Catholics will shoot you. And that's only one illustration. You go around the world, you find a million illustrations like that. People are entirely hypnotized by the words they use, and they want everybody else to use the same words too. The world is full of people who are killing one another over who has the right reality tunnel. As Noble Drew Ali said, if you let other people define reality for you, you are living in a world that is called hell. It's when you start creating your own reality that you can create a heaven.
Who is the master who makes the grass green? Who is the master who makes the grass green?
Who is the master who makes the grass green? If you're Van Gogh, you live in a world with cats that look like this. If you're not Van Gogh, your cat shouldn't look like this. The sad man lives in a sad world. The happy man lives in a happy world. The angry person lives in an angry world. At the end of the valley of decision, there is always choice. Reality is what you can get away with. If you can't get away with it, it ain't real.
Hello?
Excuse me, do you rule the universe?
I try not to. Are you wet?
Wet? Well, doesn't it look as if we're wet?
That's how it looks to me, but how you feel about it might be a different matter. If you find warmth makes you feel dry, you'd better come in.
Sure.
Oh, that's
fine.
right.
Thank you.
Yes, very kind. Just
What, here? Man, what's your name?
I don't know. Why, do you think I ought to have one? It seems odd to give a bundle of vague sensory perceptions a name.
Listen, we must ask you some questions.
All right. You can sing to my cat if you like.
Would he like that?
You'd better ask him that.
How long have you been ruling the universe?
Ah, this is a question about the past, is it?
Yes.
How can I tell that the past isn't a fiction designed to account for the discrepancy between my immediate physical sensations and my state of mind?
Do you answer all questions like this?
I say what it occurs to me to say when I think I hear people say things. More I cannot say.
Oh, that clears it up. He's a weirdo.
No, listen. People come to you, yes?
I think so.
And they ask you to take decisions about wars, about economies, about people, about everything going on out there in the universe.
I only decide about my universe. My universe is what happens to my eyes and ears. Anything else is surmise and hearsay. For all I know, these people may not exist. You may not exist. I say what it occurs to me to say.
But don't you see? What you decide affects the fate of millions of people.
I don't know them. I've never met them. They only exist in words I think I hear. The men who come to me say, so-and-so wants to declare what we call a war. These are the facts. What do you think? And I say. But it's folly to say you know what is happening to other people. Only they know, if they exist.
Do you think they do?
I have no opinion. How can I have?
Look, but don't you see that people live or die on your word?
It's nothing to do with me. I am not involved with people. The Lord knows I am not a cruel man.
You say the Lord. So you believe in...
My cat. I call him the Lord. I am kind to him.
All right. How do you know he exists? How do you know he knows you to be kind, or enjoys what you think of as your kindness?
I don't. I have no idea. It merely pleases me to behave in a certain way to what appears to be a cat. What else do you do? Please, I am tired.
Now, Kant was the one to reject every last remnant of the primacy of existence. According to Kant, it was not the function of reason to grasp existence. Concepts and percepts are completely cut off from the world and function within a realm of the mind's own creation.
Hello and welcome to this video in which I hope to contribute something to the Flat Earth debate with the help of this inspirational lady, Dame Ellen MacArthur, who in 2005 set a new world speed record for single-handedly circumnavigating the globe, which is the global version of it, although I never really bought into the hype about it, because when you look at the map of where she sailed, and this is the only one I can find on the internet nowadays, you can see that she set off from Britain, she sailed past Africa and around Antarctica, back again, which on this map looks okay until you consider that Antarctica is the narrowest part at the bottom of the globe. It's not the same as sailing around the equator, which is what I'm sure most people would think of as circumnavigation. She set off from Britain, sailed through the Atlantic to Antarctica, which you can't see on this map, and back again. Now, it's quite a long way, but it's not circumnavigation. if she'd come around the equator, then she would have crossed the vast expanse of the Pacific. If you look down at the bottom of this globe, you can just make out Antarctica. But to sail around that bit there is never going to be the equivalent of sailing around the Pacific. And that's not even the whole Pacific. If you look at Hawaii just there, if you were to swivel it around, there's Hawaii. So you've still got all of this Pacific to go, even if you take a shortcut through the Panama Canal and then around the Atlantic, which would be fine. That would be circumnavigation. It wouldn't be setting off from here, coming down the Atlantic, around the Antarctic and back again, which, as I say, is a long way, but it's just not circumnavigation. Even if you call your autobiography Full Circle, it doesn't make it a circle. It's an odd teardrop shape down the side of the planet. So I've always been underwhelmed by the whole MacArthur thing, until just recently when I've seen these videos on YouTube about the flat Earth, and they keep showing this map, the azimuthal equidistant projection, and as soon as I saw that, I immediately thought of Ellen MacArthur, because if the Antarctic is this edge around the disk, and if she did sail around Antarctica, then she clearly did circumnavigate the Earth. And if the powers that be know that we live on a disk like this, then you can understand why they heaped so many awards upon her. She was given, she's been made a dame. Here she is receiving it from the richest human being that ever lived, whose name isn't Rothschild. There she is with the medal, and she received France's highest award as well, and plenty of other awards. She became a household name in the UK. So obviously someone puts a lot of store in what she did. So let's just imagine that we do live on a disk and that she did sail around the edge, and let's visualize that. If we say that she set off from Britain here and she sailed around Africa and around Antarctica, and this is rough because I'm using a trackball for this. We'll assume she didn't weave about so much, and we'll assume that she didn't take a shortcut across the Pacific and that she went all the way around here. Now it's not a circle, we've got this section here to account for, and we could work out the area of this with calculus, but since she started and finished from the same point, and since everything inside this journey is the habitable area available to us, let's just take it at face value and say that this was a circular journey, and use that to work out the area of this disk that we may or may not be on. So if we take the full circle, we need to know the circumference of the circle. We need to know the length of the journey. So we go to the font of all truth, Wikipedia, and we scroll down to her racing career, and here it is. The circumnavigation took 71.5 days, and it was 50,660 kilometres. So that's 50,660 kilometres was the circumference of the circle that she sailed. And if we know the radius of that circle, then we can work out the area. And we can work out the radius because we know the circumference, which was 50,660 kilometres. So let's get the calculator. 50,660 kilometres circumference, and we need to divide it by 2 pi. So over 2 times pi gives us a radius of 8,063 kilometres. So now that we've got that, we can go back to the area calculation, and it's pi r squared. So this is the radius, we square that, multiply by pi, and that gives us an area of 204,230,456 square kilometres. So how does that compare with the official size of the globe Earth? Go back to Wikipedia, scroll down to the size, and here we are, surface area 510,072,000 square kilometres, compared with what we just came up with, 204,230,000. This is less than half the official size of the globe. So it's a pretty rough and ready calculation. So I'm putting this out there for the big boys to have a look at. The flat earthers and the flat earth rebutters. People with more resources and more brain power with me should be able to use numbers like the length of journeys that people take when they say that they've circumnavigated the Earth, and you should be able to work out from that the actual physical size of either the disk or the globe that we live on. I don't think there's any conclusive proof either way, but at least this gives people something to work with. So that is for you guys to look at, really. But as an appendix, I just want to show you what Ellen MacArthur is up to these days, because she's retired from competitive sailing and she now has the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, and as you can see, their mission is to accelerate the transition to a circular economy. And this is a glorified way of talking about recycling. It's just that you should use resources in such a way that you can reuse them endlessly, in theory, and keep putting them back into the system. So circular economy sort of seems a bit of a coincidence. And then when you look at the logo, 3 circles arranged in such a way that these 2 circles look a bit like a tube. So there's a tube coming through the outer circle, a three-dimensional circumpunct, an eccentric quasi-vulvic totem, looks like to me. So, and then just look at the circular economy overview. Everything circles, circles within circles. I don't know if that's telling us something, but circles do seem to play a large part in Ellen MacArthur's life these days. So there you go, professional flat earthers. See if you can do anything with this. And then just as one last word for people like Ellen MacArthur that are into the environment, if you want to do something about the environment, then recycling is one thing, but I think you really should start here. Do something about this, because I'm sick of looking up in the sky and seeing that every day, and I don't need some do-gooder telling me that I need to recycle in order for this to stop. So there you go, take what you can from it. Good luck with your calculations, everybody. Thanks for listening.
The Earth. Is it really just a big ball floating in space? Spinning on its axis at 1,000 miles per hour, hurtling around the sun at 67,000 miles per hour, whizzing through the Milky Way at a milk-curdling speed of over 500,000 miles per hour, and warp driving through the heaven at over 500 million miles per hour? And what about the sun? Is it really 93 million miles away and close to 1 million miles in diameter, with a circumference of nearly 3 million miles? And it's constantly illuminating half of our entire Earth's surface with the rotation of the Earth, creating our 24-hour days, our night and days? Or, shh, the Earth is flat. completely still, just like we experience. And maybe the sun isn't big, but is very small and very close, and not illuminating the Earth from 93 million miles, but is illuminating locally. And maybe everything, the sun, moon, and stars, are not far away, but are circling overhead relatively close. In this video, we're going to explore the latter option, and at the end, we're going to reveal startling evidence through the use of time-lapse photography that the sun cannot possibly be 93 million miles away, but is in fact very close and is illuminating locally as it traverses our flat Earth. Oh man, and watch how this sun comes at you. Boom! I mean, come on. And that's all perspective. If you look at jet trails, Google Images, you'll see them. They start out low at the horizon, they come up overhead. Look at that thing. They come up overhead and then they go down to the horizon. Perfectly explains what the sun would do. Here it is going overhead. I love time lapse. And look at this. You can't go out and look at the sun. You can't see this stuff, except that it's on, time lapse like this. It's incredible. Now watch this thing. It's sweeping. The sun over flat Earth is doing a big circle, right? Look at this thing. See it sweeping to the right? It's like a lefty bowler. Just toss that down the alley, and there it goes, hooking into the pocket. You can see how the clouds angle down to the horizon. I shot it there. That's exactly how the sun would do on flat Earth. Okay, back to the Copernican principle, and this is what they tell us. The sun is 93 million miles away. Now, I'm going to show you evidence through sunsets that shows the sun light following the sun over the horizon, and it shrinks as it goes over. Now, there's no way it would do that if the sun is 93 million miles away. Okay, first I'm going to show you some footage from the ISS. Okay, now watch this animation. Watch this sunset. Now this is exactly, if they came to me and said, do an animation, this is how I would do it. If the sun were 93 million miles away. Just like that. Have the whole horizon fade evenly. But that's not what we see. Okay, wow, look at that. Look how the light lifts off the ground like a big wedge, or like lifting up a sheet of paper. That's incredible footage. Definitely the light's following the sun, right? Okay, next I'm going to show you how a sun that is circling over the Earth, that creates the horizontal aspect of the sun. If you combine that with perspective, which creates the up and down of the sun, the rising and the setting, you get the 23.5 degree tilt that they talk about. It's nothing but perspective and the circling sun. Here's another sun sweeping out a big circle. Okay, here's a phenomenon that you might be wondering, how in the heck do you explain this on a flat Earth? Well, this footage is taken from Alaska during the summer, and the sun does look like it's going up and down. The reason it's doing that is that this town in Alaska is not in the center of the sun's circular circuit. In other words, the sun is making a big circle, and the town is not in the center of that circle. So the sun will be closer and further from the viewer with the camera. That will cause it to go higher and lower, and also maybe even bigger and smaller. Look at the high altitude airplane. Remember, this is from a high altitude balloon. So that airplane is probably at cruising altitude. Notice how it looks like it's going up from the horizon. That's exactly how the sun will rise, because that plane is staying parallel to the ground. And now watch, it'll go down to the other horizon. All right, again, perspective, that's how the sun will set. And forget the big ball, that's just due to a GoPro camera. But see how the sun, that's the point of this. And then also, look at the size of the sun, man. Look at that thing. I mean, there's something to it to say that we're higher up our view and the sun looks bigger, and it looks like it's not as high in the sky as it does when we're on the ground. Something to that. Let's explore this notion a bit further, that the sun looks bigger when filmed from higher up. The next 3 slides, I'm going to do a comparison, a side by side. The one on the left, the camera's above the clouds. The camera on the right is ground level. And the point for the side by side comparison from the ground level and the level above the clouds is that above the clouds we're only maybe a mile or so up, and if the sun appears to be closer to the camera, well, that means it's probably much closer, because if the sun were 93 million miles away, a mile closer wouldn't make any difference at all to its visual appearance. Okay, here's a little illustrator or a little cartoon from a website called timeanddate.com. It's really funny that they would have a perfect illustration of a sun rising and setting on a flat earth due to perspective. You'll notice that it rises from below the horizon and sets below the horizon. Now you might be saying, well, how's that possible? I can see now you're saying that it rises and lowers due to perspective, but how does it disappear below the horizon? Well, I got a theory about that. Because of the fact that all parallel lines and planes converge at your eye-level horizon, this is according to the perspective, I'm not making this up, if in fact, and they do, they converge at your eye-level horizon visually, then it makes sense that after that point, they diverge, meaning they then separate. So the sun would continue on a downward track. As you can see from my illustration here, the lines would go to your horizon, and then afterwards they would spread out and separate, kind of like a starburst, and the starburst being at your horizon, at your focal point. Anyway, without further ado, we're going to start talking about, and I'm going to start showing you the time lapse of the sunsets that I'm talking about that clearly show the sun is close and illuminating locally. Here we go. All right, and here are a couple of time-lapse sunsets, and just like the sunrises at the beginning of this video where you could see the sun coming at you, not maintaining any 93 million mile distance, here you can also see the sun moving away, and it's clearly not due to the rotation of the Earth and a sun that's maintaining 93 million miles away, but the sun is moving over the Earth and moving away from you. Okay, these next three slides, the sun is almost set already behind the horizon, but watch as the sunlight shrinks and follows the sun. It's definitely a locally illuminating sun, not far away, not very big, and definitely not 93 million miles away.